My name is Goran, and I'm a PhD student at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, the chair of communication theory. And I will talk a little bit about network science. First part will be kind of introduction, crash course into the network science. And for the next 1.5 hours, I will talk about my research. I prepared a few figures here for you. So this is a map of a city. Do you recognize? Does anyone recognize the city? Of course not. That's actually a city of Königsberg. So this city actually doesn't look like this anymore. Nowadays it's a city of Kaliningrad, and it's nowadays Russia. And back then it was Prussia. But why is this city important? So there is one guy, Swiss mathematician called Leonhard Euler. So he came to visit the city. So this is a river, and those are bridges in the city. There are 7 bridges. Mathematicians like to solve problems which do not exist. So he was thinking how he can visit all parts of the city, crossing all bridges, but not more than once. It's easier like this. So the question is, if you can visit every node here by not crossing each of the edges twice. The simple answer is no. You cannot do it. Why is that important for our everyday lives? Because that's the first time in the history that mathematical proof was made by graphs. Euler proved that it is not possible to do it in this kind of graph. The proof is quite simple, but I will not go through the proof. The most important thing is that the first thing that someone used graphs to prove something in maths. And that's the beginning of a science called graph theory. So in our everyday lives, we use graph theory many times. Not we, but maybe your devices. For example, if you want to calculate the shortest path from one part of the city to another, your device uses some algorithms from graph theory. There is one interesting algorithm, an interesting problem. It's called traveling salesman problem. Imagine those are cities, and the salesman has to start from one city and to visit all cities, not visiting one city twice in shortest possible way. I mean, here it's simple, but in a bit larger graph, that becomes extremely difficult to find. That's one of the most difficult problems in graph theory. And there is no brute force solution. All solutions are heuristical. So all algorithms which are developed are heuristical. We don't have, if you want to try all possible solutions, that's impossible. A group of students may solve that solution for all bars in Great Britain. And you can find it online. So if you want to visit all bars in Great Britain in optimal way, you can do it, and they solved it for you. So on top of that graph theory which we use, there is another thing here which is called network science. More or less that there are similar things, but most of the time network science is built upon the graph theory. So we are surrounded by different types of networks, starting from communication networks, transportation networks, so social networks, not only online social networks, but we are like a species, we have social connections. There is one interesting theory in network science, maybe you all heard about it. It's a theory called 6-degree separation. So it states that if we have a whole population of the Earth of people, every person can reach any other person in 6 or less steps. So in 6 or less acquaintances. But forget about the internet. We are talking about real social networks. So real friends. So in the real world, you can reach any person in the world in 6 or less steps. It sounds really weird, but we can actually test it here. So, for example, each of you can have 2 friends from the left and from the right side. For example, if he wants to reach Stefan, he has to go through him and then through him, through her. All this way it's even more difficult. If he is a friend with Mohammed, it becomes much quicker. In average, it shortens the path for everyone for half. That's very interesting property of social networks. So we tend to cluster in a small groups, but there are many random connections between different groups, which makes that possible. So it's called small world property.
These 6 connections are proved?
Yes, it's proved mathematically and experimentally.
Even in mathematics?
In mathematics, we have some estimated number of peers that you have, and for a certain population and that type of network, you see that, and I'm talking about maximal number.
Mm-hmm.
It's not average. So you can reach everyone in 6.
At most in 6.
At most in 6. Why it's so counterintuitive for us? Because we tend to observe like our networks of friends like this, that we are somehow connected with our peers, and if this guy wants to connect this, he has to go like that. But social networks are not like that. Social networks have many random links who go like this, and one random link goes like this, and that completely shortened all those longest paths drastically. Another thing, maximum is 6. In average, it's a little bit more than 4. With Facebook, maximum is 3.5. Interesting property is called scale-free property. It doesn't matter if we scale, like make it larger, it behaves the similar way. We can actually research all those networks through smaller networks and making models. So we make a model, we make artificial model of that network and then research. It's not easy because networks are not random. None of the networks in the world are random. There is a third component here. So network science and complex systems. Why are they connected? Why are the systems complex? Why are they not complicated? So there is a difference between complicated and complex. Simple, complicated, complex. It's a change of a paradigm here. For example, we have car. Car could be really complicated thing. But if we remove the wheels, we know that car is not going to move really quickly or efficiently. Airplane, it's really complicated. But if we cut its wings, it will not go. For complicated systems, we know exactly for each part of the system why is that for and what's the purpose. But for complex systems, we are not really sure. For example, brain is an example of a complex system. Some people can survive without half of the brain. Some people miss big parts of the brain and they still function normally because some other part takes its role. Some people
function without the brain.
Without brain at all. Yeah.
No, they do.
There are other examples of complex system and complex behavior, which is really, really interesting. For example, birds. They sometimes behave as a complex system. One of the main properties of complex system is that usually made out of many small independent parts, which individually don't do much, but together they form a system. So for example, if we have birds and we see how birds fly, they usually flock and they fly in a similar direction. They do not have a leader, so there is no like a big bird telling them how to organize. They organize just following really simple rules. Each of them has few rules, like one bird is observing just few birds around it, and then follows the path. Another example is like financial systems, banks. One of them, so this is like a network of banks, or society. Society is large complex system, we cannot explain what's going to happen if something goes wrong. We can see the resemblance with complex systems with the networks. That's why we call it complex networks. So we use really often network science in order to explain the behavior of complex systems. And complex systems also have another properties like phase transition. They change from one stable state to another stable state. For example, there is a network of species in an environment. Each species depends on other species. If we observe that network, we can see, for example, which species is critical. So if we remove that species, that environment is going completely to be destroyed. Go to another phase. That's why actually those complex systems are important. It's kind of an emerging field in science.